Let's get educated. That's why we're here, to bring you the stories impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses. It's time for a little education.
Why, hello everyone, and welcome to Educated. I am Katie Patrick, and I am joined by Mr. David Fiorazzo, the man who has been going all morning and tonight.
Oh, boy.
And you got a lot going on, because you're not done yet. You got a lot going on yet tonight. So, David, please inform me what happened this morning, and then what's going to happen right after this.
Tonight, we talked about Christmas with Pastor J.B. Hickson on worldviewmatters.tv. You can go look at that, subscribe, and get our weekly email. But there it is. And JB, I love him. We talked about Christmas hope and the promise of the return of Christ. But tonight, I will be live. Not Memorex.
Live.
Boy, did I just date myself on that one.
Yeah, you did.
Speaking at Freedom Project headquarters at 7 p.m., doing a presentation on my book, Assault on the Image of God, Understanding and Responding to Attacks on the Bible, Human Life, and the Church. It'll be live streamed on the Freedom Project Facebook page, and it'll be at 7 o'clock for those who are in the Northeast Wisconsin area. So 7 p.m. tonight. I'm sure doors open 6:30-ish. Come on by and get a book and a few for Christmas presents if you would like to support my ministry. So I appreciate that. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to plug it.
Yes. So we got to rest his voice, I feel like.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Well, before we do get started, just a quick little reminder here that if you enjoy that video platform out there called Rumble, we are uploading all of our episodes of Educated and Worldview Matters to our channel on Rumble. So please visit rumble.com/Freedom Project and give it a little follow.
Yes, and thank you to all those who've already done so. So right now, what day? Thursday. If you've been a fan of the show for a while, you know that's the special time of week we get to check in with Mr. Alex Newman and see what he has to share with us this week. Hi, Alex.
Thanks, guys. Great to be here. Yeah, so you may not have seen the poll. The media tried to bury it, but most American adults do not believe the hypothesis that human emissions of CO2, human activities, are causing climate change. Dun, dun, dun. Surprise, after decades of nonstop propaganda and indoctrination in the schools and fake media, people still don't believe it. And so the UN, which is meeting right now in Dubai for the climate summit, I'm actually on my way there today, they are trotting out the children. They've got troops of heavily indoctrinated children and youth from all over the world who are being shamelessly exploited by the political, business, and religious leaders at this UN climate summit, the so-called COP28. The goal is to push planetary controls over the gas of life, CO2, the gas you exhale, as well as wealth redistribution and other sinister agendas. Now, Greta Thunberg, the little Swedish girl, is nowhere to be found. She kind of sparked a scandal by really not being fond of Jews, but so she has kind of been pushed to the side. She also called out the last climate conference for hypocrisy and greenwashing and greed and theft and other things that were absolutely on the money. And so they've got some new young people they're trotting out now. And one of the organizations that's leading all this is part of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, the UNFCCC. It's called Youngo, and this is according to their own website. This is the official children and youth constituency of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And so under its leadership, they said in a statement, these youth representatives issued a declaration for climate justice and a global youth statement where they're very conveniently demanding all of the same things that the aforementioned government, dictator, religion, and business leaders have been demanding as well. They also said that in this COP, they're going to center youth perspectives in international climate policymaking, setting a model for future COPs. COPs, by the way, are Conference of the Parties. So as part of that, the government of Abu Dhabi and the UN brought in over 100 youth to meet at the Emirate Palace in Abu Dhabi and promote this climate agenda. According to His Excellency Shama Al-Mazroui, he is the Emirati Minister of State for Youth Affairs. The COP28 presidency is committed to achieving unprecedented youth and children's inclusion in international UN climate negotiations. He says, we've been working diligently on a series of initiatives to offer comprehensive support to youth at every stage of the COP process. And they said that over the past year, they have engaged with young people from across the globe to make sure their voices are integrated throughout the entire COP28 process. And he says the aspiration is to offer this for future years as well. And so they're doing this for a long time now. In fact, last year we reported live from the conference that they had a youth pavilion for the first time ever. They had a bunch of brainwashed young people talking about how we needed to give up our freedom, give up free markets, send away Western money to third world kleptocrats. And also, they need more climate indoctrination. We saw it over and over and over again. So you can go back and see that report we did last year for the Newman Report at Freedom Project. But you also have UN Women brought in a bunch of youth. They're there to fight the patriarchy, promote abortion, and also undermine climate change. And really interesting, the first guy on their list really is actually a man. Not sure how he identifies. But they're very proud of bringing in youth champions from across Asia and the Pacific to share their expertise and put gender equality and women's empowerment into the global climate discussions. It's hard to say this stuff with a straight face. You got another far left group, Save the Children, funded by governments posing as saviors of children, saying that children across the world demand better access to climate education, which by that they mean climate indoctrination. They're also demanding, according to this press release, more funding for climate resilient infrastructure. I wonder how many youth and children know what climate resilient infrastructure even is. They're also demanding a seat at the table for their voices to be heard. Yeah, they actually did a bunch of COP simulations with children to figure out what the children wanted. And of course, they want the same thing as adults, right? Sure they do. That's that climate education speaking there. You also have business doing this. The World Economic Forum, which is a strategic partner of the UN in bringing about Agenda 2030. They are bragging that they have 100 young global shapers at the conference. These shapers are basically youth stormtroopers to advance the World Economic Forum's goals, like the Great Reset and all that kind of silly stuff. They say, building on the work of COP27, these global shapers will continue to advocate for inclusive solutions at COP28 in Dubai, tackling crucial themes like energy transition, biodiversity, health, technological innovation, all rooted in the principles of climate justice. Yeah, whatever that means. And then even fake religious organizations are participating. You've got the Apostate Church of Sweden sending this girl here. Her name is Julia Rensburg. And so part of the World Council of Churches, they're at the Faith Pavilion talking about how we really need more climate stuff. Right? We can't afford, if we're living on the margins, indigenous people, which she claims to be an indigenous people, need more climate solutions, etc. So it's no surprise, obviously, that totalitarians in government, business, religion would want to exploit children to advance their ambitions. It's also been happening for thousands of years, right? It's nothing new that would-be tyrants exploit children for these purposes. What's surprising to me is that after all of these centuries of this kind of stuff, so many adults are still falling for it. This is a disgrace, folks, but expect more. And we'll be back next week with more from the Climate Summit.
Today's show is sponsored by our friends at MyPillow. Save up to 66% on pristine quality bedding, towels, slippers, signature pillows, and much more when you use the code EDUCATED. That's EDUCATED, EDUCATED. Support this show and a great American company.
It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief and the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light, it was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. That is a classic opening line from Charles Dickens' The Tale of Two Cities. Well, I got to tell you what, today's show is the tale of one city that caused an avalanche of insanity and mob rule throughout dozens and dozens of cities in the United States of America. Hello, America. Welcome to One Nation. I'm your host, Dr. Jake Jacobs. You know, in 2020, in my book, Mob Rule, I said this about the death of George Floyd on page 2. The latest death heard round the world occurred on May 25th, 2020, when a Minneapolis police officer, Derek Chauvin, arrested George Floyd. And then I go on to talk about the description of what happened and how it just exploded with riots upon riots from Minneapolis, Chicago, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Seattle, Portland, Los Angeles, Phoenix, and on and on and on and on and on. I was down in Phoenix, Arizona at the time. And on Arizona State's campus, they had these kiosks, these moving kiosks that had the name George Floyd that kept on repeating itself, like, remember the name George Floyd. He's a hero who died for social justice. Well, there's a brand new documentary coming, it's out right now, called The Fall of Minneapolis. The Fall of Minneapolis. It's absolutely, I've watched it a couple of times now. I would recommend that you watch it and tell your friends to watch it, because it reveals the lies and deception behind the left wing, the Black Lives Matter narrative about how George Floyd died and how they justified their Marxist revolutionary activities across the country. In fact, the creator of this documentary has written a book called, and here we have the title of the book, They're Lying. The Media, the Left, and the Death of George Floyd. Liz Collins, just a brilliant investigative reporter who put this documentary together. And I want you to see just a short little clip from this documentary that'll wrench your heart with the truth of what really happened back in May of 2020. Here goes.
Murder of George Floyd.
Murder and manslaughter.
Murder of George Floyd.
Peaceful protest overnight in the Twin Cities.
They've been very peaceful. The crowd continues to be peaceful.
8:46, 8 minutes and 46 seconds.
9 minutes and 29 seconds.
Actually, 8 minutes and 46 seconds.
By the way, that particular technique is not authorized by the MPD.
Is this a trained Minneapolis Police Department technique?
It is not.
When I heard that, I really wanted to get up off my chair and yell, bull.
From what I've seen of the videotape, the photograph, and the police training manual, they look pretty identical.
Were you trained in MRT, the maximal restraint technique?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, all the police officers were trained in the MRT.
I'll tell you, I can't stress enough that you watch the documentary. You can watch it free online, and that you tell your friends about it, because I want that film, that incredibly well put together documentary, to be sent to be seen by millions and millions of Americans, to expose the lies of the left. Now, Liz Collins, the moment she comes out with this truthful documentary, the media, the left-wing media, the complicit media, they are attacking her like crazy. Let's look at just some of the headlines. The Fall of Minneapolis. Who is Liz Collins? Journalist connection with George Floyd's death explained. Now, if you could keep that up for me. When you go into this article, there's a disclaimer that says this article talks about sensitive topics like racially motivated police brutality. Readers' discretion is advised. Look at this headline, too, this following headline. The Fall of Minneapolis is Orwellian nonsense. Now, I got to tell you something. What's Orwellian nonsense is the lies that went on and on and on, perpetuated by Black Lives Matter, by MSNBC, CNN, the BBC, all left-wing, legacy media. Over and over again, they covered up the reality and the truth of what actually happened on that day. And we have a clip from Sky News where Liz Collins discusses the travesty of what happened in Minneapolis back in May of 2020. Here goes.
So much of this was manipulated and kept from the public, and we start that in the film itself with the body camera footage. This is footage that was withheld from the public for nearly 2.5 months. That's never happened before with any sort of critical incident when it comes to Minneapolis police. We were allowed to see this viral Facebook video, and that's all. But in the body camera footage, you clearly hear and see George Floyd talking about how he can't breathe long before Derek Chauvin arrives on scene. You have a black officer who arrests George Floyd that day. And remember, this was all supposed to be about race. That's what we were told. Not only is Alex King involved, but Tu Tao, who's Hmong American. Half of the police officers who respond that day are minority officers. But we weren't allowed to hear about that. We weren't allowed also to see for ourselves how George Floyd was acting, not complying with commands. You have the officers asking, "What are you on? What did you take?" And he again denies again and again that he took anything. And you also have an arrest that happens in 2019 that we're not told about. We're told that Minneapolis police didn't know George Floyd. They had nothing to do with him before. But in fact, he was the subject of an undercover drug investigation in 2019 that we were not allowed to see. And when you play that body camera footage next to what transpired in 2020, it's almost identical.
Now, you'll see throughout the rest of my book, Mob Rule, I unfold the Marxist and militant nature of Black Lives Matter, Antifa, and leftism in America and around the world. Guys, there is so much more to say, but for the rest of the story, watch the full episode of One Nation.
If you have a smartphone, tablet, Roku, or Apple TV, consider downloading the FreedomProject Media app. It's 100% free and includes all of our weekly shows, plus lecture series, archive programs, and award-winning animated videos for families like the Presidential Minute, Battles of America, and Heroes of the West. Don't rely on the social media giants to keep you informed. Simply download the Freedom Project Media app from your app store and allow notifications. And we'll let you know when a new video is ready.
All right, friends, we're going to do something a little bit different right now. Katie and I are going to listen to a song that has been going viral, apparently, and give you our very first reaction. Now, this song was originally performed by an artist known as Dax, and country star Darius Rucker was asked to collaborate on a new version.
Okay.
Interesting.
Hootie! The song is called To Be a Man, and right now there are countless reaction videos showing grown men sobbing as they listen to the powerful words, so look out, David. So for the next 3 minutes, I guess we're going to give it a listen, and we're going to come back with our first reaction. All right, here you go. Here is the new music video for To Be a Man, featuring Dax and Darius Rucker. Let's go.
I can't hide myself. I don't expect you to understand. I just hope I can explain what it's like to be a man. It's a lonely road, and they don't care about what you know. It's not about how you feel, but what you provide inside that home.
Being a man is what you make it. You can't always live up to expectations. You try to please everybody while you struggle, so you fake it and end up out of balance, compromising situations. As a good man, do what he should, man. Give everything he has and do everything he could, man. You might find yourself feeling all alone inside a house you built that you don't recognize as home. And that's what my daddy told me, and I'll tell my son the same. Now that I'm older, I relate and I actually feel his pain. He never cried, he might have lied, but he did not complain. And he said, son, one day you'll have to do the same. I get emotional when I stop and think and I look around beyond the county lines of my small town. I think about all the men out there who feel like I do now, who are screaming on the inside but won't ever make a sound. I can't hide myself. I don't expect you to understand. I just hope I can explain what it's like to be a man. It's a lonely road, and they don't care about what you know. It's not about how you feel, but what you provide inside that home. Don't give up, keep fighting. As a man, our sun is our horizon, and our father's actions play a role, and we end up like them. So they can't let us see them hurt, cause we'll embody what they do and start a generational curse. No wonder most men are so depressed, all the things that they can't express. They go to war, get thrown on the shelf, then go back to war with their mental health. Then grab that bottle and ask for help, try to pull themselves out of hell, then fall back down and then realize that they're gonna have to do it themselves. It's the circle of life. As a man you provide, they don't know what you're worth till the day that you die, and that's when they start crying. Then move on to a man to confide in. That's why we feel we can't hide ourselves. We can't hide ourselves. We don't expect you to understand. We just hope we can explain what it's like to be a man.
Okay.
No, seriously, that was powerful. I love the message. Love the song, love the words. I think there's a lot of important points in there. Men have been attacked, one of the most attacked species in the world, I think, especially in the last couple decades, and especially with the transgender movement and the feminist movement and everything else. Men have been under attack since the 60s and 70s when Hollywood started making them out to be unnecessary, goofball, idiotic father figures that are not needed in the home. But one line that really was important to understand is the expectations on men today. I think they can be kind of unrealistic, but I want to hear your thoughts.
Well, I'm not a man. I'm just going to go ahead and say it.
Thank you for clarifying.
So I don't know what it is like to be a man, but I got emotional a little bit in my head there, thinking like thinking about my husband, thinking about him being a father to our son, especially, and then thinking about I'm emotional thinking about my own dad, because this is the thing, like if you are a man, like what it's like to, if you carry with you like that, what the expectation of providing for that home, what goes on in that home, like you take that seriously, you get said that you're just, you're one of those hicks out there in the country, you're a redneck, you're a, any matter of derogatory terminology. And my dad is the don't show feelings, but through his actions, you know who he is. And the line that got me was, you don't know his worth until he dies. Like with a lot of men, especially around where I grew up, and that you didn't realize how much these men provided and what they sacrificed themselves, whether it was, military work, charities, being involved in everything. When, like, as a kid, being the kid, you don't realize it until like you're compiling all the things that your dad did growing up, or your grandpa did growing up, and you're like, whoa, what it meant to be a man. And we are definitely losing that as a society. Isn't
that sad that it takes a funeral to wake us up and to realize, wow, he did so much. So I think that's a good gut check or heart check for all of us, men or women. What kind of legacy do we want to leave?
Yeah.
And what kind of life do we want to live? Not the expectations of the world, forget that, but under God and your own family and your community. Every person has a sphere of influence and can make a difference.
All right. Now, if you want to get emotional too, if you would like to watch and listen, again, Darius Rucker and Dax, the song is called To Be a Man.
Kudos.
If you want to watch the video or just listen, either way. I could see how grown men would sob, and it's okay. Grown men can cry at things.
It's okay.
It is okay. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up Educated for this week. And of course, please don't forget that you can catch Educated on the go by simply subscribing to the podcast on your favorite platform. And if you're not sobbing right now, if you could leave us a 5-star review, that would always be, we would cry on our end as a thank you. We're so happy that you've done it. We would be touched.
Yeah. For Katie and myself, thanks for watching, listening, supporting the show, and of course, sharing. And until next week, stay educated, America.